All right, welcome back. This is going to be part 2 of a persuasive essay. You guys know who I am. I'm Mr. Crawford. I'm the 7th grade English teacher here at the middle school for Elkhart Middle School. And let's go ahead and dive right back into this. So this is part 2 of the persuasive essay. So we learned really quickly in part 1, we learned that we broke our essays up into 4 parts. The intro, body 1, body 2, and finally our conclusion. And we also learned that persuasive essays are meant to try to persuade somebody to believe the same way that you do, or to think the same way that you do, or maybe to buy the product that you want them to, or to vote however you want them to. They just need to believe and think the way that you believe and think, okay? And it's your job as the writer to do that, all right? So we're going to take an actual topic today, and I erased wonderfully my prompt right there, but I'm going to give you a prompt today. It's a pretty easy one. Then we're going to go through the brainstorming process on that prompt. We're going to create a thesis statement, and we'll actually go ahead and create some other things like counter arguments and call to actions and all of that fun stuff together, okay? So with that being said, let's go ahead and give myself a prompt. The prompt is this. The prompt is it better to live in a small town or big city? Man, Mr. Crawford, that's an easy one. Is it better to live in a small town or a big city? Okay, so you may automatically think one way or another. You may say, oh, small town, duh, it's Elkhart, Texas. Of course, small town, that's where I want to live. But other people might say, well, big city, that's the place to be. Bright Light's a big city, that's where I want to be, right? But no matter how you feel, you need to go ahead and do your brainstorming first, okay? And you need to also look for what evidence you have, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a T-chart, all right? Where I'm going to have like small town on one side and big city on the other side. And we're going to like basically weigh out pros and cons of each. And I'm going to see which one I have more evidence for. And I'm going to pick that one, the one that I have more evidence for. Let's say even if I think that living in a small town is better, if I have more evidence for a big city, that's the one that I'm going to write about. Okay, because I have the evidence, I have the ideas, I have the examples, I have the explanations to prove that, because I want to have as much strong evidence as possible, okay? So let's go ahead and do that. So the very first step is going to be to brainstorm. The brainstorm is going to look a little bit different than our expository brainstorm. Remember your expository brainstorm, we had what I called the brain web, where we had the circle like this, and then we had things coming off of it. And then we had this and this and this and this and all that and stuff. Yeah, we're not going to do that one for persuasive. We're going to do a T-chart, okay? So let's go ahead and make our T-chart. All right, let's try to make that as big as we can. Okay, here's our T-chart. So we're going to have cities over here and town over here. Let's start thinking of a bunch of different things. Okay. Living in a big city, let's think of different things that we could do, okay? Why is the city better than a small town? Why is a city better than a small town? Well, I can probably guess that the first thing you're going to say is that there's more things to do, right? And that is true. There are more things to do, right? They have so many bowling alleys, and they have so many different movie theaters and amusement parks and recreational parks to go to. I still want to try one of those indoor skydiving things. That sounds like it would be really awesome. You got to find that in the big city. You can't find that here in Elkhart, Texas. So there are more things to do. That would be a pro. What else would we think? There's more job opportunities in the city. So let's write more jobs. There's more job opportunities in the city. What else do we have? Oh, here's a good one. When I think about cities, a lot of times that I think about education. So there's going to be more educational opportunities Okay, opportunities. So in a city, you're going to have a choice of a lot of different things. You know, here at Elkhart, we have one school, Elkhart Middle School. If you're a middle school age kid, this is where you go unless you want to get homeschooled. In the city, there's going to be dozens and dozens and dozens of different schools that you could go to based off of where you live. And then there's also going to be a lot of private schools that you can go to that are available. And then even if you go like after high school, think about all of the colleges that you can choose from. I mean, if you go to Dallas alone, there's probably 10 different universities and 30 different community colleges that you can go to. So there's a ton of educational opportunities to be there, okay? But let's see, what else can we think of here? Let's say that there's more culture in the city, okay? So, okay, there's more culture. And what I mean by that is that there's going to be different types of people. You're going to go to a city, and what it is, it's really like a boiling pot of all of the world's different cultures. You'll see people living from China, and they have their culture there. And you'll see people living that are from Africa, and you'll see their culture there. And people from Brazil and Pakistan and Russia and Czech Republic. Shout out to my wife right there. All of these people that are just living all together. So there's all these different cultures living there. So that is a really cool aspect of living in the city, is that there's all these different cultures to do. I don't always just want to list pros on the city though, because remember, brainstorming is just getting all of my thoughts out on paper. I'm going to list some things that I think that might not be good for it. I do want to put though, because my wife is here, and shout out to the females, what else is better about the city? Okay, I don't really care about this that much, but shopping. I always hear this one. I'm going to Dallas, or I'm going to Grapevine, or I'm going here to go shopping. So shopping would definitely be a plus, okay? So now those are all pros. Every one of these are pros. These are all points that I could pick if I wanted to. I want to list a few just to get my ideas out, because I do have a couple of cons that are going on. Actually, I'll tell you what, I'm going to save those because that might actually be a pro on the small town side. Okay. So let's talk about now I'm going to switch gears. Why is it better to live in a small town? Let me think about this. Why is it better to live in a small town? Okay. Well, I live in a small town, and one of the reasons why is because of less crime, right? There's not near as much crime. There's not near as much crime in a small town as opposed to a big city. All right, you can look that up. This is statistical facts. What else? One thing that I despise about the city is waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting in traffic. So that is a definite perk to living in a small town, is less traffic, okay? Another perk of living in a small town would be it's cheaper. It's cheaper, okay? It's cheaper to live in a small town, okay? It's cheaper to live in a small town. And that goes for me. Let's say if I live in a house that costs $100,000 here in a smaller town, in a kind of a rural area. If I were to find that same house in an urban area, let's say in the DFW Metroplex, my $100,000 house would probably be closer to a $250,000 house, $300,000 house. So it is more expensive living in the city and less expensive living in a town. There's also less noise living in a small town as opposed to a big city. So let's go with that one. It's a lot quieter. That's one of the big perks of people living out in the country or living in a small town, because it's just not as busy and it's not as noisy and loud, and you don't hear all the sounds and the sirens and all the kind of crazy stuff that you hear in the city. So living in a small town, that's definitely a perk. Now, this might be a pro or a con, just depends on who you ask. But another cool thing that I love about living in a small town is that everybody knows everybody, right? everyone knows you. Okay, everybody knows you. That could, like I said, could be a pro or a con either way. So I've got a pretty good list there, and you could go back and forth. You could use, this pro is a con for this one, and this con is a pro for this one. So we could spend another 30 minutes going over pros and cons. But you have to remember, I only need how many facts? How many facts do I need? How many ideas or examples do I need? 2. I only need 2, okay? So now what I'm going to do, just like our expository essays, I'm going to pick our 2 best ones, the 2 that I feel that I can make the best argument with. So remember, I'm going to choose one way or another. This line is split for a reason. I'm not flip-flopping, okay? I'm not flip-flopping. I'm not staying on one side or the other. I like to think of it like if it's a picket fence, right? I need to stand on this side of the fence or on this side of the fence, because if I stand on top of that fence, it's going to hurt, right? So I'm either this side or I'm this side, all right? So based off of, just because I've already written this essay before, I think for me, I could get better points out of living in the city just because I could have better ideas and examples, and I feel like the evidence that I have could support living in a city better than in a small town. And the reason why is because, 85% of here in Texas of the population comes from a suburban area, so most people choose to live in the city. Now, I just want to show you something, though, that even though I'm choosing to write that living in a big city is better, do I believe that? I don't. But I have the evidence to support that. And that's what I was saying earlier. Just because you think one way, you got to look at your evidence. What do you have? What can you line up? How can you defend your ideas and examples? Well, I think that I'll have better ideas or examples saying that I live in a big city versus in a small town. So let me choose the ones that I'd like to write about. I think perhaps I could go with educational opportunities. I could go with all kind of things. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to focus on job opportunities, and I could go, I think job's a good one. So job opportunities. So I'm going to put a little star beside that one. I like that one a lot. I think I can fill that one a lot. Now, I'm kind of flopping back and forth between choosing more things to do, okay, and educational opportunities, okay? Remember, I can only choose 2. So I'm going to leave this one as a decision to my wife, who's holding the phone right now. Julie, do you think we should go with more things to do in the big city, as in recreational opportunities, or should we go educational opportunities? She says number 1, which is recreational opportunities. Am I right? Okay, so she says here. So I'm going to go ahead and put a star right here beside this one. So now I've got recreational opportunities and job opportunities. I hope you hear me say that opportunity word a lot, because that's going to be the basis of my argument. Opportunity, okay? That's going to be the basis, the foundation. All right, so now that I've got that, I need to create a thesis statement, okay? A thesis statement. Now remember, the thesis statement drives the whole argument, so we need to come up with a good one. So our